We were laughing. Music was playing softly in the background. Glasses were raised. The cake had already been cut. Then she stood up. Her hands were shaking, but her voice wasn't. And when she spoke those words, every smile in the room disappeared. That evening was meant to be simple. Nothing grand. No luxury hall, no extravagant decorations. Just family. After everything our family had been through, we deserved one peaceful night. The dining room glowed with warm yellow lights. My sister had spent hours arranging the flowers herself. White lilies and pale pink roses, my wife's favorite. The smell of home-cooked food filled the air, mixing with soft laughter and gentle music. It was a celebration. Not a wedding. Not an engagement. Just a family gathering to celebrate new beginnings. Or at least, that's what we thought. I remember standing near the window, watching the city lights flicker outside, feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time. Relief. My son Daniel had finally found happiness again. After his failed first marriage, after years of disappointment and silence, after watching him grow quieter and more distant with each passing year, he was smiling again. And the reason for that smile was sitting at the center of the table. Her name was Maya. She wasn't loud. She wasn't overly friendly, but she was polite, calm, and carried herself with quiet confidence. The kind of woman who listens more than she speaks. From the very beginning, she had made an effort. She remembered everyone's names. She helped my wife in the kitchen without being asked. She laughed at my brother's terrible jokes. And most importantly, she made Daniel happy. That was all that mattered to me. Or so I thought. I watched them from across the room. Daniel leaned close to her, whispering something that made her smile. She reached for his hand, squeezing it gently. It was a small gesture, but something about it stayed with me. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. I've lived long enough to trust my instincts. And that night, something felt off. Not wrong. Not dangerous. Just incomplete. Like a sentence that ends too early. Every time Maya laughed, there was a pause afterward. Every time someone congratulated her, she nodded politely, but her shoulders tensed just slightly, as if she were holding something in. I told myself I was overthinking it. After all, new relationships come with nerves. Meeting the family can be overwhelming. Maybe she was just shy. Still, when my wife leaned toward me and whispered, "Don't you think she seems distant?" I knew I wasn't alone. Dinner was almost over when Daniel stood up and tapped his glass. The room quieted. He smiled, looking around at all of us. "I just want to say thank you," he began, "for welcoming Maya into this family, for supporting us, for believing in us." Applause followed. Maya smiled politely, her fingers tightening around her napkin. Daniel continued, "This past year hasn't been easy, but tonight feels like hope." Hope. That word hung in the air. Then he turned toward her. "Maya, I know this isn't what we planned to announce tonight, but..." She suddenly let go of his hand. The sound of her chair scraping against the floor cut through the room. She stood up. Slowly. Every head turned. For a moment, no one said anything. Maya looked down at the table. Her breathing was steady, controlled, but her hands trembled at her sides. Daniel frowned slightly. "Maya." She didn't look at him. Instead, she lifted her gaze and scanned the room. My wife, my brother, my sister, my elderly mother sitting quietly at the end of the table. Then her eyes met mine. And in that moment I saw fear. Not panic. Fear mixed with resolve. The kind of fear someone has right before they jump, knowing there's no turning back. She took a deep breath. "I'm sorry," she said. Two simple words. But they landed like a crack in glass. "I didn't plan for this to happen tonight," she continued. "But I can't stay silent anymore." Daniel stood up. "Maya, what are you talking about?" Her voice trembled for the first time. "This celebration, this happiness," she swallowed hard. "It's built on something you don't know." The room felt colder. I can't be part of this without telling the truth. My mother shifted uncomfortably. My wife's hand tightened around her fork. Daniel reached for Maya's arm. Please, sit down. We can talk later. She gently pulled away. Then she said the words that stopped everything. Daniel, we were never supposed to be celebrating. You know that feeling when your ears start ringing? That's what it felt like. No one moved. No one breathed. Daniel's face drained of color. What do you mean? He whispered. Maya's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't wipe them away. Because this relationship, she said slowly, started with a lie. Gasps filled the room. My wife stood up. Maya, what are you saying? She looked at Daniel one last time. I should have told you before. But I was afraid. Afraid of losing you. Afraid of this moment. Her voice broke. But I can't live like this anymore. She turned back to us. There's something about me, about my past, that changes everything. Daniel shook his head in disbelief. Everyone has a past. She nodded. Yes, but not like this. She reached into her purse. The sound of the zipper echoed unnaturally loud. She pulled out an envelope. Old. Yellowed. Sealed. I didn't come here tonight to celebrate, she said softly. I came here to confess. She placed the envelope on the table and pushed it toward Daniel. I never meant to fall in love with you, she whispered. But I did. The room felt like it was holding its breath. Daniel stared at the envelope as if it might explode. What's inside? He asked. Maya closed her eyes. The reason we should never have been together. No one urged Daniel to open it. No one spoke. The envelope sat there like a loaded weapon, silent but threatening. The room that had been filled with laughter minutes earlier now felt like a courtroom waiting for a verdict. Daniel's hand hovered above it. Maya, he said quietly. If this is a joke. She shook her head. I wish it were. Her voice was steady again. Too steady. The kind of calm that comes after you've already cried yourself empty long before the moment arrives. Daniel finally picked up the envelope. I watched his fingers tremble as he broke the seal. Inside were photographs. Old ones. Black and white copies, slightly faded. A police report folded neatly. A hospital wristband taped to the corner of the page. Daniel's eyes scanned the contents. Confusion turning into disbelief. Then shock. Then something far worse. Why does this have my name on it? Daniel whispered. My wife leaned closer, trying to see. The police report had a name written clearly across the top. Daniel Harris. Date 15 years ago. Charge, vehicular manslaughter. Case dismissed. The room erupted. What is this? My brother shouted. That's impossible, my wife said. That case was closed. It was an accident. Daniel's face went pale. How do you have this? Maya finally sat down, as if standing had become too heavy. Because I was there, she said. Silence crashed down again. Her eyes drifted somewhere far away. 15 years ago, she began. I was 17. It was raining. My mother and I were crossing the street after my shift at the diner. Daniel's breathing became shallow. I remember headlights, she continued. I remember the sound. I remember my mother's hand slipping out of mine. My wife covered her mouth. The driver never stopped, Maya said softly. Daniel stood up so fast his chair fell backward. That's not true, he said, his voice cracking. I stopped. I called for help. The police said. You were young, Maya interrupted gently. Your father was powerful. Lawyers were hired. Evidence disappeared. Her voice hardened. My mother died in the hospital 3 hours later. A sob escaped her lips before she could stop it. The room felt like it was sinking. You changed your name, Maya continued. You moved cities. You rebuilt your life. She looked directly at Daniel. And I grew up visiting a grave. Daniel's knees gave out. He grabbed the edge of the table to steady himself. I didn't know, he whispered. I swear to you, I didn't know. She nodded slowly. I believe you. That hurt him more than anger ever could. I met you 2 years ago, she went on. At the bookstore. You helped me reach a book on the top shelf. A bitter smile crossed her face. I recognized your voice before I recognized your face. Maya wiped her tears. I told myself I would walk away. That I would never speak to you. That I would let the past stay buried. She laughed softly, without humor. Then you smiled at me. Daniel took a step toward her. And every day after that, she said, I hated myself for falling in love with the man who took my mother from me. The room was frozen. I tried to leave, she whispered. So many times. But love doesn't ask permission. My mother finally spoke, her voice trembling with age and sorrow. Why tonight? Maya closed her eyes. Because Daniel was about to propose, she said. Everyone turned toward him. I found the ring yesterday, she continued. And I knew, if I didn't tell the truth now, I never would. She looked at Daniel through tears. I won't build a future on a lie. My brother slammed his hand on the table. This is madness. You've ruined everything. My wife shook her head, crying silently. Daniel stared at Maya like she was both a stranger and the only person in the world. So what happens now? He asked. Maya stood up again, this time steadier. Now, she said. I walk away. Daniel grabbed her hand. No, he said. You don't. His voice was firm, filled with something new. Responsibility. I won't let you carry this alone. Maya pulled her hand free. This isn't about love anymore, she said. It's about truth. She picked up her coat. I loved you, she said quietly. And that's why I had to stop this. She turned toward the door. Daniel followed. Maya, please. She stopped. Do you know what hurts the most? She asked without turning around. Daniel shook his head. I spent my whole life hating the man who killed my mother, she said. And somehow, I fell in love with him. She opened the door. And that, she said, is something I can never forgive myself for. She left. The door closed softly behind her. The celebration was over. No one spoke. The cake sat untouched. The candles burned low. Daniel stood in the middle of the room, broken. I walked toward him slowly. My son, I said, placing a hand on his shoulder. He looked at me, eyes empty. What do I do now? I had no answer. Because some truths don't offer redemption. They only demand courage. That night, no one slept. The house that had once echoed with laughter now felt hollow, like something precious had been removed and left an invisible wound behind. Daniel sat alone in the living room until dawn. He didn't cry. He didn't drink. He didn't move. He stared at the envelope. At sunrise, he finally stood. I need to see her, he said. My wife looked up at him, eyes swollen from crying. Daniel, sometimes love isn't enough. He nodded slowly. I know, he said. But responsibility doesn't disappear just because it hurts. He found Maya at the cemetery. She was kneeling in front of a simple headstone. Elena Rivera. A loving mother. Daniel stopped several feet away. I never visited, he said quietly. I didn't even know where she was buried. Maya didn't turn around. I came here every birthday, she said. Every anniversary. Every time I needed to remember why I couldn't forgive. Daniel swallowed hard. I'm here to tell you something, he said. Not to ask for forgiveness. She finally stood. I'm turning myself in, he said. Her breath caught. What? I'm reopening the case, he continued. If the truth was buried, it shouldn't have been. Tears streamed down her face. That won't bring her back. I know, he said. But it might finally let you breathe. When Daniel returned home, he confronted me. Dad, he said, did you know? The question hit harder than any accusation. I looked away. Yes, I said. The silence between us was unbearable. Your father's lawyer, I continued, convinced us it was best to let it go. We told ourselves it was mercy. Daniel's voice trembled. You let me live a lie. I was wrong, I said. And I will carry that shame forever. Daniel nodded. Then I'll carry the truth. News spread quickly. Headlines resurfaced. Old witnesses came forward. What had once been dismissed as an accident was now examined with clarity. Daniel testified. So did I. So did Maya. The courtroom was silent when the verdict came. Guilty of negligence. Sentence, community service and public acknowledgement. Some called it light. Others called it justice delayed. Maya sat in the back, hands clasped tightly. She didn't smile, but she didn't cry either. Months passed. Daniel moved out of the house. He worked nights at a rehabilitation center. He spoke at schools about accountability, not because he was forced to, but because he chose to. Maya watched from a distance. One evening, she showed up. I didn't come to forgive you, she said. I didn't expect that, Daniel replied. I came to say this, she continued. I no longer hate you. Daniel exhaled, tears forming. That's more than I deserve. They walked together, silently, until Maya stopped. Love didn't save us, she said. No, Daniel replied. But truth did. She nodded. We were celebrating, she said softly, until I spoke those words. Daniel looked at her. And because you did, he said, we're still standing. They didn't embrace. They didn't reunite. But something heavier than love lifted that night. Some celebrations end in silence. Some truths arrive too late. And some love stories aren't meant to survive, only to teach. That night taught us this. Truth may destroy the moment, but it saves the soul. Subscribe for more this type of stories. Thank you for watching.